you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us for our second annual Future of Energy Forum. It is my pleasure to introduce our final session of the forum, Powering the Bayou State Energy Investments and Transforming Louisiana's Future. If time allows, at the end of the session, the panel will take questions. Just submit those questions via the QR code located on the screen. Please make sure you silence your cell phones. Enjoy the conversation, and please join me in giving a warm welcome to our moderator, managing partner of 1834 Ventures, a three-time Tulane alum, and an adjunct faculty member here at Tulane, Mr. Evan Nicoll.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, Kyle. Good to be here. This is the last panel of the Tulane Future of Energy Forum, so we are excited to anchor that. We're excited for all of you to be here and excited for the discussion with this great group of panelists. As Kyle had mentioned, Evan Nicoll, managing partner of 1834 Ventures. We're an early stage venture capital firm, and we invest in companies that we say have Tulane in the DNA. While unaffiliated with the university, we have very strong ties and are excited about that. So what I'd like to do is we'll go ahead and kick it to our panelists. So we've got a wonderful panel. We've got Cain, and she's the head of public affairs at Heirloom. And then we are joined by Dr. Chandra Stacie, the Director of Government Affairs and Community Relations for St. Charles Clean Fuels. Tommy Faucheux, he's the president of LMOGA. And then Troy von Otnott, the CEO of HotRok Energy. So thank you very much for being here, all of us. So please take 1 to 2 minutes just to introduce yourselves, your organization, and your role within that. So why don't we start with Caitlin?
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. So again, my name is Caitlin Cain, and I primarily work on public affairs with Heirloom, but come to this work in direct air capture and carbon management from a role in economic development and community development. So I spend a great deal of my time, in addition to public affairs, also doing quite a bit of work in community on community engagement endeavors. Thrilled to be part of this illustrious group today to talk about carbon management practices, the new innovation frontier, and we'd love to get a little bit more into the details of DAC and the DAC technology and the questions to come.
You guys get gold stars for being here, especially if you've been here since Wednesday, and so great to see all of you guys here today. Like Evan has said, I am Chandra Stacie. I work with St. Charles Clean Fuels. We're an organization that's developing a blue ammonia facility in the river region, and I handle government affairs and community relations, and that really just is wrapped around navigating all of the procedures and policies as we navigate and kind of develop in the state, as well as creating a good foundation on the ground as we are seeking to develop this facility in the river region. Thank you.
Tommy Faucheux, president of the Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association. We are the industry trade association for Louisiana's oil and natural gas industry. Just to give you a sample, our representation includes everyone from the offshore producers in the Gulf, the onshore producers in the Haynesville Shale region in North Louisiana, and then in between that we have the pipeline companies, refineries, LNG companies, more and more companies investing in CCS and new energy technologies, like both of the ladies here to my left. We represent the industry in Washington and in Baton Rouge and advocate for policies for the industry, as well as help to facilitate conversations with them, with policymakers at the local level, local community organizations. So thrilled to be here today to talk. There have been tremendous speakers all week, and it's exciting to be the anchor here at the end of the day.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Troy von Otnott. I'm CEO of HotRok Energy. We are the first and only geothermal energy development company in Louisiana. I've been doing renewables development for 17 years and started the solar energy industry in Louisiana in 2008 by helping to draft the enabling renewable energy tax credit legislation and forming the first company, South Coast Solar, in 2008, which is still in operation today. So I'm now returning back to Louisiana to launch a new geothermal energy marketplace. We are currently actively engaged with a couple of industrials and Entergy Louisiana, and hopefully going to provide deep well geothermal energy for the Meta AI data center up in Ridgeland.
Perfect, thanks, Troy. So my next question, I would like for each, and this is specifically for Troy, Chandra, and Kate, could each of you briefly share what your company is building here in Louisiana, and then why you chose Louisiana as a place to invest and to scale? And then I think we have some students in the room. If there are students, raise your hand. Yeah, I told my students that they had to be here, so thank you for coming. So for those of us that may be less familiar, could you paint us a picture of how your technology works and why it matters for Louisiana's future? So I'll start maybe with Troy.
Yeah, so why I'm here is I'm from New Orleans. I grew up here and lived here for 40 years until I sold my solar company and moved to Atlanta, but don't hold that against me. I hate the Falcons.
As you should.
Passion.
So do we.
So there's my street cred. But you know, why geothermal energy in Louisiana? So many people don't know we're blessed with really great subsurface heat resources in the state. Even the utilities were completely unfamiliar with this until we brought it to their attention about a year ago, and they were very excited to learn that they're sitting on some fantastic heat resources that if you apply the right technology applications that can be extracted and converted heat to electricity and ultimately provide clean, firm baseload energy to the grid, which does not exist in a lot of places in Louisiana except for nuclear energy, which has its challenges. So we're really excited to try to develop those resources and really provide substantial amounts of clean energy to the grid, and also potential inside the fence applications for a lot of these industrial plant owners that are wanting clean energy but don't have a lot of options because of a lack of land.
Chandra?
So we are developing a blue ammonia facility, and ammonia, with the blue attached to it, removes the low carbon, or removes the carbon from the product. And so this means that virtually no greenhouse gas emissions. And this fuel is being looked at to help decarbonize processes globally. It's also looked at to utilize for fertilizer and for its hydrogen content. And so why Louisiana? Why not? And am I biased? Absolutely I am, because I am a Louisiana native, and I don't believe that anybody does energy like Louisiana does. And so it's a rich industrial state, and we know how to do this, and we know how to do this well. And so this is just an addition to the energy transition and the energy portfolio, being able to provide a low carbon product that can be used as a fuel and that can be used to help decarbonize even other industries.
Kate?
Great. Well, we are a direct air capture facility. How many people in the audience are familiar with direct air capture? All right, that's fantastic. Quite a few. So we're essentially, Heirloom is located in California, but we are expanding our facility here in Louisiana, in Northwest Louisiana. And we are a cousin to CCS, and that CCS focuses heavily on the decarbonization efforts, whereas DAC focuses really on the removal of that CO2. So how do we do that? We actually have a very simple technology. We utilize limestone, which many of you know already contains CO2. We take that limestone, we heat it up, and we remove a molecule of that CO2. Then we hydrate that lime, and at that point, what happens is that lime naturally wants to reabsorb CO2, go back into its natural limestone state. And then we take that and we loop it again and again and again. So it's a process of taking the limestone, heating it up, extracting the CO2, and then looping. We essentially do two things with that CO2 to permanently remove CO2 from the ambient atmosphere. We either store that CO2 in a Class 6 well, or we reutilize that CO2. And what we're doing at Heirloom is actually looking at opportunities to reutilize the CO2 as synthetic aviation fuel, or SAF, which you've heard about before. And we have actually just finalized a deal with United Airlines to utilize some of our product in future flights, which is incredibly exciting for us. But why here in Louisiana, why are we expanding? Because we have the opportunity to be part of a very robust energy ecosystem. I think so many members of this panel today represent a variety of industries that feed directly into direct air capture. Yes, we're here because of the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, the Class 6 wells, the pipelines, but also the human infrastructure. There is an incredibly skilled workforce here that we share with oil and gas and petrotech and other industrialists that naturally translate to the work in direct air capture. But more so, what's incredibly exciting for us as a direct air capture facility in Louisiana is that opportunity to really be at the forefront of SAF and new fuels for the future. And I think that's what Louisiana really has to offer because of the presence of a number of industrialists from hydrogen to CCS to DAC facilities.
Thanks, Kate. Tommy, so some might assume that these emerging technologies would compete with some of our traditional strengths. We have such a rich history in oil and gas and petroleum. How do you see these complementing and not competing with some of our strengths?
Sure. So I don't know how many of you were here yesterday when Colette Hurst from Shell spoke just after lunch. And I think if you listen to Colette talk about how Shell sees the world, and it's very similar to a lot of the other large energy companies, you know, the multinationals, many of which, by the way, do call Louisiana home and have a significant presence here. We are, I think Chandra said it a second ago, we're adding on to the industry that we have. We need oil and gas going forward. The world is not ready to leave it behind. We need it. We have plenty of it, and we're going to continue to produce it and do it with a lower carbon footprint as we just continue to become more and more efficient in that production. But that being said, there are technologies that we can add on onto the existing industry. Everyone that I've heard talk about making new energy investments in Louisiana, many of which, you know, we are an oil and gas association, but we have many companies who have joined our membership who are not traditional oil and gas companies. However, all of those companies and others who are investing, almost to the last one in line, say we are doing this in Louisiana because we have an expertise, a base, if you will, of understanding amongst communities, a base of a workforce and knowledgeable academic community that oil and gas has been the beneficiary of for almost a century, more than a century now, and we can take that and use it to do what comes next, or what is done in addition to. There were a lot of talk as we were in, you know, if you go back 4 or 5 years, there was a lot of talk about the energy transition. It really is an energy addition because the world cannot and is not ready to transition away. Louisiana is in a unique spot. The geology of this state means more opportunity for oil and gas, but it means the opportunity for carbon sequestration. The pipeline network that crisscrosses the state connects everyone, whether you're in the petrochemical space, whether you're investing in new technologies that need to move carbon, whether you're trying to move natural gas to service the LNG industry. That pipeline network exists now. Louisiana was one of the first states to get Class 6 primacy from the EPA because, during the Biden administration, because the state demonstrated its expertise to be able to manage the industry, manage the components. We are experts in drilling injection wells. We are the experts in pipeline management. We're the experts in finding the men and women we need to sustain an industry. And by the way, we do have the carbon. We have the emissions. We have it in Southwest Louisiana and up and down the Mississippi River. So I am excited about the opportunities that are coming. The opportunities to service new markets in the chemical space, the opportunity to continue to produce, yes, traditional oil and gas, but then to take that knowledge and expertise to not only service the markets around the world that want lower carbon energy and lower carbon manufactured products, but also continue to create economic opportunity for the citizens of this state. And by the way, the citizens of the state need more economic opportunities.
Well said. Kate, I want a question for you. I think much has been made of sort of some of the announcements that we've been seeing in investments over the last year. So obviously we all know about the Meta, but Heirloom's DAC deal was named a finalist for Deal of the Year. And you had mentioned the United Airlines joint venture. So my question is, could you speak to the importance of joint ventures like that and how it can help position Louisiana to be a leader in this carbon management space?
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy actually alluded to this a bit earlier, that Louisiana really finds itself at the forefront of leading the decarbonization effort for a number of projects across sectors. The United Airlines deal for us is incredibly important because it puts the conversation in a whole new light in terms of how do we think about CO2 and the extraction of CO2 from the ambient atmosphere as a commodity or as a feedstock to all of these other industrial operations, or for us, the energy of the future, which for Heirloom, we're primarily looking at SAF. That's a huge deal, right? I mean, there's so much that goes into those sort of e-fuels when you look at everything from supply chain to industrial operators. So for us, it's just a DAC company, as far upstream as you can possibly imagine, but in order to make that SAF, we need green hydrogen, right? We need all of these other industrial bases as part of this supply chain. And for Louisiana in particular, the state is incredibly well positioned to have a competitive advantage in this space to market e-fuels globally. And if we look at what's happening on the global front, we know that folks are demanding decarbonized products, again, across sectors. In the aviation space in particular, there is the trend moving towards new fuels. Louisiana, through the SAF and through the joint venture deal with United Airlines, really represents this movement to a new pivot for e-fuels and all the production that we can be providing in the space. So for us, that's incredibly exciting. We're moving the conversation not just from capturing and storing, but from capturing and manufacturing.
Thank you, Kate. And just wanted to open it up to the rest of the panel, any other joint ventures that you might like to highlight in the state that come to mind that you'd like to bring to this space?
I mean, look, we've given a proposal to both Entergy and Meta to build the largest geothermal energy project in the United States. It would be $2.5 billion CapEx, which would be, by multiple orders of magnitude, the largest clean energy project in Louisiana's history. I hope in their infinite wisdom they accept the proposal.
So, Tommy, how important do you see some of these partnerships in the future between trade associations and companies producing new energy solutions in Louisiana? Are there any examples in LMOGA and how that's happening already and or perhaps being set into motion?
Sure. So look, I think everyone up here would tell you the only way a lot of the projects, a lot of the technologies, investments that have been discussed this week move forward is if you have the policy framework at the state and federal level that is necessary to allow it. At the end of the day, no one moves forward in this industry without the proper permitting and oversight at both the state and federal level. So we are in an interesting place in time because in many ways we are writing the policy as we go. And I don't mean that to sound as if we're behind. I think it speaks to the excitement and the opportunities that are coming our way. The technology is evolving. Companies, oil and gas companies, other companies are capturing things in the lab. They're using their expertise to really dig into the science that makes new things possible. But policy has to go with it. And the trade association world, obviously, I think it's extremely important. But the truth is, we can bring companies together to try to understand what they need, whether it's representation, here in Baton Rouge or in Washington, to make things possible. Remember, at the end of the day, our industry and all of you as citizens of both Louisiana and the United States, or wherever you come from, you should want strong regulatory bodies that do challenge an industry to make sure that they are operating safely and responsibly. I go back to that primacy designation that Louisiana received. It was because the federal government saw that Louisiana knows how to regulate an industry responsibly. So we need the policy that allows us to operate, that makes sure that the community is well represented. And look, is it going to be perfect? No. Again, I think this is an evolution in our industry. I think my organization, both of their companies are members of ours. They weren't a few years ago. I think we have some fascinating conversations. Some of the largest energy companies in the world are also investing in new, innovative, low-carbon technologies. New companies are being created. We're having conversations around my table that we have not had in the past. And that is exciting. We have to make sure we do it responsibly, we don't move too fast, and we have to make sure that states, our state in particular, is ready, and we're getting there. And I think that's the role of the industry associations, is to help convene people, to have the conversations, to put the policy in place to where they can then move forward, they can be successful, they can invest. I'm going to put a plug here. The energy economy in Louisiana right now the energy industry represents about 25%, a solid quarter of Louisiana's overall economy. If we are successful with a lot of what we talked about this week, we build upon that. We're not replacing it with something else. We're building upon that, and that is tremendous. That's 306,000 jobs and growing.
Absolutely. And let's build on that for a second. So, as you had alluded to, Tommy, partnerships are key. None of these things happen in a vacuum. Troy, Chandra, Stacie, would you like to, Kate, would you like to add to that some of the partnerships that are key into some of the projects that you've been involved with respectively? Feel free, anyone who'd like to start.
Sure. So the state is very important and critical in developing a lot of these new projects, right? I mean, there is no development without state agencies. And so in particular, I'll say Louisiana Economic Development, right? So LED creates this framework and foundation for new investments in the state and really positioning Louisiana as, here is a place you can come and do business efficiently and effectively, and then we're gonna help you navigate through the process. Secretary Bourgeois has done an excellent job in kind of restructuring and strategizing so that we can pull everybody along and find you a focal point so that that person can help you navigate through LDNR, and help you navigate through LED, and help you navigate through DEQ, so that you are doing everything correctly. Because otherwise, sometimes if you're developing these new investments, then you're left to try to figure all of that out on your own. And so the partnership with that organization specifically has been, like I said, really critical in being able to navigate this in a way that's going to be beneficial to not only the state, but then, drill down to the parish and drill down all the way to, the communities that we operate in.
Yeah, reinforcing that, I think, we're an early stage company, right? And an early stage company has myriad challenges along the way. And you cannot get to where we are today without pronounced partnerships from public, other private players, universities, and the community. They all have a role to play and are all incredibly instrumental to the work that we do. I think that the universities in particular have been key for us, 2 years, 4 years. We've had some great conversations. One of our challenges really as a more of an emerging technology is the amplification of our work, right? Because I think Louisiana, we have this bias probably towards more traditional sectors, right? People are very familiar with oil and gas and some of the other industrial operations, but DAC is a very new technology. So the more that we can lean in on our partnerships to get awareness into the classrooms at a variety of different levels, the better it is for us in terms of creating that next generation of workforce. And from an advocacy perspective, hats off to the trade associations. They're incredibly important to the work that we do. And just when we talk about the ecosystem in general, one of the reasons I think Louisiana is such a powerful player in this space is because we have an ecosystem. And it's not just physical infrastructure, it's the people behind that ecosystem. It's the trade associations, it's the universities, it's the way in which people collaborate very effectively, especially the government agencies. Highly accessible, and for a business looking at a variety of different locations and places to site, that is an incredibly attractive feature.
Yeah, I was just going to say that from a energy development partnership standpoint, we're looking at this kind of holistically with both the organizations that need the power, the utilities that are authorized to provide the power, and then independent power producers like ourselves, right? So I had this meeting with Entergy yesterday and spoke to them about the situation with the Louisiana Energy Users Group, which is like 26 of the largest industrial plant owners in Louisiana. And they're all frustrated because they want clean energy. They ask Entergy for it, and Entergy says, I'm sorry, we don't have anything. And they go, okay, well, let us do our own power behind the fence. And Entergy says, sorry, we have to provide you the power. So it's kind of a weird conundrum, but there is a relationship, a tri-party opportunity for organizations like us to come in, partner with the utility, partner with, you're going to need some clean electrons. Happy to provide those clean electrons for you on site with a closed loop solution that will not disrupt your existing operations. So, there's structures to which we can solve these problems collectively, but we have to do it together. We can't do it independent of each other, and we can't just do it with two parties. It really takes three parties working together.
I would just sort of echo that, certainly LED, absolutely. I mean, our fund would not be here, would it not be for LED? And I'm not just saying that because they put up half of our fund. They have been wonderful partners, and not just us, but to all of you as well. So, Troy, I'll come back to you, though. So when you sort of reflect on your experience and how you've scaled solar across the state, what lessons are you taking with you as you move into geothermal power?
Early in my career, I was a little feisty, and I would fight with the utility a little bit, especially when they would not move quickly enough to deploy clean energy. And I realized that that's not a winning strategy. You're not going to beat the 500-pound gorilla, so you really have to play nice with them and really try to affect change from the inside. It's the same thing with large industrials. Like, I never wanted to work with an oil and gas company ever, just because I'm an environmentalist and I didn't think it was a good look. But I realized that really, if you really want to help the super majors, the Shells, the Conocos, you need to do it from the inside. You need to work with them, partner with them, bring your ideas, bring your expertise, and try to change from within. So it's more cooperation, less sort of, outside fighting.
So I'd like to move next into sort of the community engagement piece of this, and I'll start with Caitlin and Chandra. At Heirloom and St. Charles Clean Fuels, you've emphasized listening to and working with local communities. It's been a big part and pillar. Can you talk about how you're approaching community engagement and also workforce development at the same time in your projects, respectively?
Sure, I'll go first. So there are a lot of things that have occurred over the course of, let's just say, a little bit over 2 years now. So St. Charles Clean Fuels created an organization called Hope St. Rose, and they pulled together some industry partners. They pulled together the school system, some of the community colleges, the skill and trade craft organizations in the area, and some of the other social services to say, how can we get together, identify what gaps exist, and then try to address those gaps. Because one thing that St. Charles Parish is, it's a parish that's really rich in support and resources, and so we didn't want to take the approach of trying to address something that's already being covered. There's tutoring at the community center already, and so they don't need resources like that. So identifying what those gaps are by listening to the community and talking to the community. And listen, I can be honest, everyone doesn't agree about what this looks like, but the goal here is to continue, because trust is built over time. It takes a long time to really develop trust. It also takes a split second to get rid of it. And so when you're kind of facing some of those hurdles, you have to be intentional about spending time on the ground. So we are having small group meetings. We are trying to navigate through this Hope St. Rose coalition, identifying these gaps. And we know that workforce is going to be important, because you can't build a facility without people. And that's one of the things that Louisiana is rich in, is people. And so connecting with individuals who are interested in, maybe we want a change in career, or the students who are already in school who say, maybe a 4-year institution is not my gig, but I could learn a skill or I could learn a craft. And so creating this pathway and this pipeline so that people can get skilled and credentialed well ahead, because listen, our organization hasn't put a shovel in the ground. So being able to skill up individuals who would be interested in working in the industry so that they're prepared to take these jobs, because one of the things that we hear all the time is the organizations that are making these investments don't hire local. Well, our organization doesn't want to be like that. We want to hire local. We want to provide these opportunities to the people who are closest around and who are interested, and then work our way out.
Chandra had alluded to the fact that trust is incredibly important, and we're fond of saying that we move at the speed of trust. And so a lot of the work that we do with community engagement is very much rooted in that. It's very grassroots oriented. Very much like Chandra, we're in the earlier stages of developing a facility in Northwest Louisiana. And the way in which we approach a community benefits planning process is through the development of a community advisory panel, which helps us which is a reflection of a variety of different members from the community, different stakeholders, representing everything from the education space, community residents, to 2-year, 4-year engineers that might just be interested in the project, but using that as a sounding board. And we do this because one, which I talked about before, was an amplification of the work that is direct air capture. It's a very new technology. People aren't as familiar with it. The advisory board kind of helps us get into community a little bit more in a more pronounced way to talk about the technology, and then get suggestions also back from the community about the types of workshops that actually work well for that type of engagement, whether it's going into the classroom, whether it's having one-on-one dialogues. We also have partnerships with the children's museums and the science centers up in Shreveport to talk a little bit more about the technology and what the technology means for the future workforce. That's incredibly important to us, because we're there for the long term, right? And that's kind of the way we want to think, is 10 plus years out. So when we talk about workforce initiatives, we focus heavily on what can those collaborations really look like with the 2-year and 4-year for a variety of different professions, from the construction side that focus a little bit more heavily on the trades and the traditional trades, to the full-time operators, right? If you're going to be a chemical engineer or more of an operational mechanic, understanding what that pipeline looks like, what the skills are in the region, because like you, we also want to focus heavily on cultivation at the local level, making sure investment is local, we're hiring locally. We're thinking about indirect job creation, not just direct FTEs, but also the creation of those micro businesses in the area, right? Those mom and pops, everything from the landscaping to the catering to the maintenance, all the way on up, that are there because of an investment in a large facility, which can be transformational for many people, especially in a rural community or a more underserved area. So this engagement, it's slow, it's methodical, it's long-term, and is one based on relationships and trust.
Can I follow up?
Please.
So to add to Kate's comments about workforce training and education, we, in the geothermal space, we're taking that pretty seriously. We feel like we've got to educate the next generation of engineers, designers, analysts, drillers, et cetera. And not that this is like a surprise announcement or anything, but we are going to be launching an undergrad geothermal energy curriculum at Tulane University in the fall of next year. So we're excited about that. We're also doing that at the University of New Orleans, and also actively engaging with STEM NOLA to really start educating the high school and elementary school kids about future employment opportunities in the space.
So Troy, I'm glad you brought that up, because that leads pretty nicely into my next question. And we're talking about workforce development and sort of the jobs of the future. Each of you, let's say you're the dean of the School of Science and Engineering here at Tulane, or business school or law school, or otherwise. If you were in that role and in that position, what would be one of your first decisions that you would make to prepare students for the jobs of tomorrow? If you could pick any one area that you could affect change in sort of the quickest.
For me, it would be, the jobs are already here in terms of the training. We're not recreating the wheel, right? We're here because of the skills already exist. And Tommy had chatted about this before. It's a highly skilled workforce, and engineers and operators. Our biggest challenge is one of awareness. So again, getting into the classrooms, if I was a dean, amplifying the fact that direct air capture is going to be an opportunity for the future. These are the companies that are operating in the state. Get to know them, think about capstone opportunities, think about apprenticeship opportunities, start networking. I would probably underscore awareness is our biggest challenge.
I'll echo that and say, because when you were talking, Caitlin, the first thing I was thinking about as well was just ensuring that the exposure is there for the students. And so making sure that we are bringing in these new technologies and these expanded technologies into the schools, into the universities and classrooms, so that these students see. And then bringing also the global players who are begging in deep desire for these products, right? So that you can help understand the complete life cycle of why some of this is occurring. It's because people are desperate for cleaner energy. They're desperate for low carbon, a lower carbon footprint. They want low carbon intensity products. Us talking about this is one thing, but you hearing it from the ambassador from Korea is something different, or from our Asian global partners there. There's something different if you are hearing as a student what these countries are really looking for and why.
Yeah, you know, I think it's interesting. We have, I think of it from the parents' point of view, and I would hope that whether you're a 4 or 2 year university, you're reaching out to communities, you're reaching out to public-private schools, anyone in particularly that K-12 space, and having a conversation about not just the jobs that are available, but the pathways to the jobs. You know, our universities are getting more and more creative. As we innovate more in the industry, the universities are going to have to innovate in the way that they help prepare our workforce. Look, we need a lot more engineers. Let's be real. We need engineers. And there's not a university in this state that doesn't contribute to what our industry needs, and so you do need to focus on that. But I do think, our educational institutions at all levels, talking with each other and then talking with the parents of the kids who may not even be in high school yet. They may be in elementary, or more importantly in that 6th, 7th, 8th grade time frame, to talk about the paths, because our industry for many years, the traditional oil and gas industry, suffered from the fact that, yes, I have two teenage children at home. I want them to go to university, and I would love for them to graduate with a 4-year degree and go and be very successful. And we have promoted that. However, our industry very much needs people who are on a 2-year path, who are looking at a particular certification, many of which now they can obtain a lot of that before they even graduate high school. Sometimes in the public school systems, free of charge. I think if you're the dean of a particular college or president of a university, whether it's a 4-year university, some of our 2-year institutions, have more conversations with what the pathways look like. Let's create the programs, but let's also then communicate what success looks like to get through those programs. We are changing. We need everyone who is in K-12 institution in Louisiana right now to see an opportunity in our industry. I tell kids, often I get asked by particularly middle high school students, what can we do? We want to see a world beyond oil and gas. I mean, and I understand that, right? Of course, I explained to them, one, it's not going away, but two, if you want a cleaner environment, you want industry to be better, you want it to be, then go get educated, come join the industry. Be the person that makes the industry better. Be the person who innovates the next technology that helps allow us to take the next step. I hope the conversations between our education leaders and particularly the parents, families who are supporting our younger students become more robust. We all have to be talking to these kids about the future that lies ahead for them.
So if I was the dean of Tulane, I would rebrand next year's forum from the Tulane Future of Energy Forum to the Tulane Current Energy Transition Forum. Because it's time, right? We're living in a carbon-constrained environment. Whether my friends in the oil and gas industry want to acknowledge that, the seriousness and the urgency of it or not remains to be seen. But we've got to start transitioning faster. And my friend Greg reminded me of this statistic yesterday, is that I think there's roughly, and you might know this, Tommy, there's roughly 5,000 oil and gas wells drilled annually in Texas. And if we drilled 3 years worth of oil and gas wells in Texas and made them geothermal wells, we could provide Texas with 100% of all the energy they need. So the technology's there, the workforce is there, the opportunity is there. We just need the political will to expedite the transition.
So I've got one other question before we open it up to the audience. And so just as a reminder for our audience, there are QR codes. Please go ahead and submit some of your questions and be ready for them. So my last question is, I was asking from the perspective, if you were a dean or say president of the university. Now my next question, let's say you're on the flip side. You're a student. You're preparing for the jobs of the next year or 2 years. What is 1 to 2 skills that you would recommend honing in on now so that you are ready by the time that you graduate, or perhaps for internship opportunities? For anyone who would like to start.
I'm going to start with mindset first. I would say I think mindset is equally important to skills. And from our perspective, if you enjoy a fun roller coaster ride and you want to solve complex global problems, join an energy startup, because you'll be working on that. And every day, I mean, it changes on a daily basis, and your skills needed are equally dynamic. Everything from policy to engineering to the various soft skills and that we talked about before on relationship building with community, they all come into play. So I think first, in kind of getting back from what Tommy had alluded to, how do we approach the conversation around workforce development and education? I think we need to equally start talking about the mindset as part of this and not just the skills. I think that is what's going to set an individual apart, especially when they are really interested in joining a very fast-moving, early-stage company.
So I'll add, and I'm not sure that this is a skill either, but being flexible and nimble. And when we were talking a little bit earlier about if you were the dean, this quick story came to mind about how I was talking to a parent just about a week ago, and her son is interested in music engineering. And she says, I don't know if he's going to be able to make beats. Like, I don't know if that's going to be a thing for him, right? And so then we had this conversation about, well, let's talk to him about how that interest and passion can translate even into an energy job. Because there are music engineers, if you will, but then there are sound engineers and folks who will be working on projects talking about how loudly equipment is and ensuring that that doesn't impact communities that are outside the fence lines. And so here is something that somebody could be passionate in, where you're saying, oh, well, I want to make beats for music. You could still do that, but then you can also take that passion and translate it into something that also kind of serves another sector, that also serves the energy industry. And so being flexible, nimble, and open to, change, I think that's really important.
Translational skills, yep.
I think obviously, in our industry, any of the STEM fields, you need those skills, clearly. I'm going to add to it, learn how to work with people. Understand that all successes in our industry are because of collaborative team efforts, and the success of the industry is the ability to respect and work with the communities. So learn how to work with people, respect people, add that to your science, technology, math skills, and you're going to be set.
Yeah, and embrace artificial intelligence. I mean, I am a newcomer to it. I've only been using these tools for about 6 months, but I had a meeting with senior leadership at Entergy a month ago, and they said, give me a detailed presentation, a detailed financial model, show us how this works. I literally built both within 1 hour. Had I tried to do that on my own, it would have taken months or weeks with a consultant. Those tools are incredible. Like, don't be afraid of them, embrace them.
Will there be a session after this? I'm just joking.
Absolutely.
So what I'm hearing is growth mindset, adaptability, flexibility. We've also got be able to, new tools that are coming online like artificial intelligence, and then also, as Tommy had alluded to as well. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and open it up to
The voice from God.
to the voice from God, AKA Kyle.
Yeah. Will the onset of geothermal technologies, direct air capture, and other energy sectors create more jobs for Louisiana residents, especially in North Louisiana, where Meta is building their proposed data center, given that this data center will likely be extremely energy intensive?
So I think we could all probably speak to a part of that. Yes, it's going to create new job opportunities. And we need them. You know, Louisiana, if you look at our state, we don't have the large metros that some states do. We don't have the Houstons or the Dallases. We don't have Atlanta. So we very much rely in all parts of our state on regional workforces. One of the interesting exercises watching what's happening with Meta in Richland Parish, because it is a little bit further removed from other parts of the state, but it's going to create new opportunities. I think we're going to see people moving around the state more. One of the exciting things about the Meta project, along with some of the other North Louisiana projects, is that it's going to take some of the traditional benefits that we've seen from the industrial corridors along the coast and the Mississippi River and spread them out across the state of Louisiana and provide economic opportunity for parts of the state that just have never had significant investments. That could be life-changing for many future generations of families.
Yeah, we can speak to just our facility in Northwest Louisiana. We're looking at over 2,000 jobs at full build-out, that's FTE and construction. Transformational for that particular area and transformational for more rural communities. Think about the other investment that comes along with not just at the FTEs, but the indirect investment that's created that inherently stays local and that starts to addressing the capacity issue. So you start seeing a lot of other investment being attracted to a region, and I think between these facilities with Meta and others, you know, thinking 8-10 years from now, how incredibly transformational that will be, not just from a jobs perspective, but also from a workforce education investment opportunity.
Any comment?
I didn't have anything to add.
So when you hear about the Meta project, you know, you hear this big number, $10 billion. It's a big number, but it's not really the actual number. The actual number is $17.5 billion, because you have to add the energy component. Entergy is going to spend $3 to $4 billion building 3 combined cycle gas plants. We would be spending $2.5 billion to do geothermal. There's another 1,500 to 2,000 megawatts of solar. That's another couple of $1 billion. Do the math. I mean, that's a lot of jobs. And by industry standards or historical standards, it's mind-blowing compared to what's been done in Louisiana on clean energy to date.
Kyle?
Yep. Can sedimentary basins like the Gulf Coast region support such a large geothermal energy project? In addition to geological constraints, have you experienced pushback from local government or legislation?
No, so to date, all of the communities that we've spoken to, both on a county level as well as state, have been hyper supportive of geothermal, and we do have really great sedimentary geology here. When people talk about limitations, they're really referring to what's called enhanced geothermal, which means you have to find a very specific location that has a subsurface reservoir 12,000 to 20,000 feet deep, depending where you need to go. So they can manage that reservoir and use the hot water as a heat transfer medium. We're only deploying what's called advanced geothermal or closed loop, which means we can go anywhere. We do not have to have hydrocarbons anywhere near where we're drilling. We don't want water anywhere near where we're drilling. We're going to drill a hot, dry hole, 14 to 20,000 feet to get to about a 400 Fahrenheit temperature that makes our heat transfer medium really efficient. And so if we need to go on Tulane's campus or UNO's campus or St. Charles Clean Fuels or Meta, we can go anywhere with this technology.
Kyle, do we have time for one more?
I believe so. What is the electricity source to power the direct air capture, and do the emissions removed from the air offset the emissions produced by powering the direct air captured tech?
Yes, so we are 100% powered by renewable sources in Northwest Louisiana that will be primarily solar and wind. And the nature of DAC is it's all based on that offset. So all of those calculations go in through an MRV analysis to ensure that there aren't any additional emissions being undertaken as a result of the electricity use, energy use rather.
Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and field the very last question because I'm going to channel my inner Lee Corso over here. We've got a game happening on campus tomorrow. And so my question for each of you very quickly, what is the score of the Duke-Tulane game going to be tomorrow? Whoever would like to join in.
Tulane 100, whoever they're playing 0.
21-3 sounds great to me, right? Tulane, yeah.
You know what? Yeah.
27-13. Go Green Wave.
All right, 752.
We'll take it. Any variation of those Tulane wins, great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your evening, and roll wave.
Right.
Thank you again for attending the second annual Tulane Future of Energy Forum. If you are available, we will have a reception in the 1834 Club. Thank you.